everybody, and welcome to another episode of Andrew Discusses. And today, we're kind of taking a little blast from the past here, though this might be more of a nightmare for me, because we're going back into the 90s. Oh, the 90s. Back when I actually had some goals and admirations for my life. Back when the world was a much better place. Decent television ruled. The internet was still a thing. And the millennium was so close that people were freaking the hell out about it. Of course, it was also the time when we got Nickelodeon and, then they started screwing themselves near the end of the 90s, but I digress. Today I want to talk about a show that, honestly, I'm amazed I never talked about yet. I mean, I know I mentioned it a few times, but I actually never talked about it yet. I'm quite disappointed in myself for that. I really am. And what show is that? Cousin Skeeter. Oh God, Cousin Skeeter. So, like a lot of Nickelodeon shows, this came out in the mid to late 90s, actually 1998. And Cousin Skeeter was supposed to be sort of like what the Brothers Garcia was. It was supposed to be one of those shows that touches on a lot of stuff from certain aspects. And honestly, I didn't mind the premise of the show. I minded the show. And not for any stupid reason. Like people would say, oh, you didn't like the show because you're racist. No, nothing to do with that. The show was just stupid. First off, I've seen a puppet thing called Avenue Q. Okay? And in Avenue Q, first off, there's two different versions of Avenue Q if you're ever interested. There's the adult version, which is so much better, and then there's apparently some child version that I've never seen, but I know that it exists. But either way, they have puppets in that, but the puppets don't interact like they're puppets. They're monsters, creatures, regular people, and that's what they are. And then you have actual people in there. It's actually kind of funny, and I highly recommend checking it out. I might actually do a review of it. I just really have to sit down and watch a whole one. I'm serious. I gotta actually watch a whole sitting of it. I've seen just some songs, but I actually have to sit down and watch a whole sitting. But either way, in that they don't show the puppets as puppets. I mean, people control them, but they don't interact with those people with the hand up their ass. No, they interact with everybody else. And that's how they treated Cousin Skeeter. But what bothers me about this show... Now, like I said, if this would have just been, hey, it's all human people, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. Then the show, I would have just said, okay, I still wouldn't have liked it for the plot either way. It felt watered down. It honestly did. It felt watered down, and in all honesty, I kind of just felt like I was watching Leave It to Beaver mixed with Different Strokes. That's literally what I felt like I was watching when I watched this show. I mean, no disrespect, but I did not like it. Airing from 1998 to 2001, this thing spanned 3 fucking seasons. And all I have to ask is who in that family was fucking Felt? Okay, Skeeter is apparently a puppet, but yet he's not portrayed as a puppet. He's portrayed as an actual human, but he's a puppet. Okay, they never make any mention of him being a puppet. I would assume the felt-like skin would be an indication. Look, I will see somebody and I will go, that's a human. I'll see a creature, I'll go, that's a dog, that's a cat, that's a bird, that's a bee. If I see felt and it's talking to me, I'm assuming puppet. Unless it's owned by Disney and the Henson Company, then I'm assuming Muppet. But no, they never make mention that Skeeter is a puppet. And this is for kids. I get that. And in the 90s, I would have suspended disbelief. Now, granted, yes, did I watch Cousin Skeeter? There wasn't anything else on. No, seriously, it was the 90s. Aside from, Mr. Meaty, that would air, near the end of this thing's lifetime. Thank God for that. I would watch Nickelodeon. And yes, this shared a time spot with the Sorry, I had to cough there. This would share a time spot with the Wild Thornberrys, another show that, honestly, I have some questions about. But you have that. There were some other weird shows in the 90s, like The Secret World of Alex Mack. You had The Mystery Files of Shelby Woo. Kenan and Kel. All that. There were other good shows than this. And here's the kicker. Now, I'm sure you've all heard of a show that was on Disney XD called Crash and Bernstein. I liked that show. That was really, really good. Oh man, that was good. Basically, let me put it this way. If I ever say that a television show or a series is good, and I would sit down and watch it ad infinitum without turning off the channel, you can take that to the bank, okay? That is a true statement. Crash and Bernstein had the similar formula. Bernstein was the only male in this house, which is apparently all girls. That's about the only difference between that and Cousin Skeeter. Otherwise, it's basically the same show. It's a growing up, learning to get along, and he gets a freaking toy by the name of Crash that basically acts as if it's his little brother. It's basically like a brother to him. It's his friend, something that he can pal around with. And it can destroy the living shit out of things. Cousin Skeeter, Nickelodeon was in a weird phase in the 90s, okay? And it didn't get any better. Happily, this was one of the shows that was ceremoniously killed by SpongeBob, and at least I swear that's what I'm going to go with, because I don't see any other reason why a show that was apparently popular, for some reason, getting canceled. And no, I don't buy the whole story of because it was on that episode of that game show on Nickelodeon and got the slime chucked on it that it couldn't be used anymore. I don't buy that for beans. I think they would have scotch guarded the little bastard. I really freaking do. But, oh my god, Cousin Skeeter sucked. Look, I'm all for shows, and I know I'm discussing this, and I'm getting a little mad, but it's true. I'm all for shows that want to teach people. I grew up watching Sesame Street. Sadly, I also watched Barney. I watched Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood until they started doing reruns. I watched episodes of Lamb Chop's Play Along. Okay? I grew up with yes, I will say it, wholesome entertainment. I mean, Sesame Street does a better job of what Cousin Skeeter wanted to do. Cousin Skeeter was a joke. It was a watered-down Nickelodeon show trying to capitalize upon the success of Sesame Street in the fucking 90s. The late 90s on top of that. I would have understood it if, let's say, maybe it would have came out in 91 or right at the start of Nickelodeon. And yes, a lot of the networks back in the 90s were trying to come up with children-friendly entertainment. Their entire premise of it was because networks were getting hammered for shows being too violent, for being too extreme. Hell, does anybody remember the TV rating system that would pop up at the top corner of your screen? People were constantly blaming a lot of the action and violent shows for that. Yes, well, I won't deny that there are probably good reasons and that they might actually be valid argument. At the same time, it was more of the adult shows that were coming on in the afternoon when kids were at home watching. I mean, this show is rated TVY7. It means it's going to have fantasy violence. So basically you're talking Power Rangers, Big Bad Beetleborgs, VR Troopers, stuff like that. This show is rated TVY. It means it's fine. You're going to love it. Yeah, it's basically Sesame Street. Oh, no, that was TVEI or whatever the hell it was. Then you had TVMA. That's South Park. Some of the stuff that was on at the time when it first premiered, Spike TV, which is now Paramount. But you had that. And I mean, I get the concept of this. I really do. No, CVG was for, like, family-friendly shit. But at the same time, that made no sense. It's like, okay, Power Rangers is TVY7. Huh? What is this, code? Okay, wait a minute. I gotta pull out my TV guidebook here to see what the code is in here, what TVY7 means. Okay, TVY7. No, you can't watch this, kiddo. It's too violent for you. Huh? Just call it TV PG-13 and be done with it. Or PG. God. But Cousin Skeeter, it just... like I said, Nickelodeon was in a bad spot in the 90s. They were trying to get too big too fast. They were trying to compete with Cartoon Network and, to a lesser extent, Disney. And they were getting too big too fast. I mean, you had Doug, Rugrats, Hey Arnold, Our Real Monsters, and a lot of their other Nicktoons that were pulling the ship. And eventually, they just started showing those things so many times ad infinitum, we got tired of watching them. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I could tell you which episode of the Rugrats was going to come up based upon the one that was on the day before. I kind of had it figured out. It wasn't randomized. Then there was Doug episodes, Real Monsters. Hey Arnold was about the only one that threw me for a loop, and I didn't even know the series itself had ended at the one point. I like to point out and thank the one person on YouTube for bringing that to my attention. But then you had Cousin Skeeter. This was when Nickelodeon was trying some new stuff. They wanted to see what they could chuck to the wall and see what would stick. I kind of want to blame this for the tween-centric shows we ended up getting from the Dan Schneider era, but at the same time, I could blame the Brothers Garcia for that. I could also blame Disney for pulling their bullshit into the wayside. So everybody can get blamed. Hell, even Cartoon Network tried getting in on the same live-action bullshit. Destroy, Build, Destroy, and that whole, massively, whatever the hell they wanted to call it, block of crap that they had on like a Wednesday night. Yeah, that didn't last long. But of course, Cousin Skeeter, this show was stupid. When Disney XD has a show that has a similar plot and does it better than this, I'm sorry, they do it better than you. They learn from your mistakes. You could look at this and figure, okay, we're basically trying to be Sesame Street on Nickelodeon. No. Sesame Street works on PBS. It doesn't work on Nickelodeon. Well, apparently now, though, it works on HBO, but it's behind a paywall, and I'm still not fine with that, damn it. Yeah, can you spell screwing over children? Paywall. But Cousin Skeeter was just a show that, in my honest opinion, I have nothing wrong with the characters other than Skeeter himself. I have nothing wrong with the setting. It just was a massive formula that did not mix together well. You tried throwing Sesame Street into a Nickelodeon show, trying to make it Leave It to Beaver, but throwing different strokes in at the same time. That's what it felt like to me. Because when I pull up like clips of it now years later, and I know, and I've seen like some clips of Leave It to Beaver, I've seen episodes of Leave It to Beaver, I've seen episodes of Different Strokes, I've seen and remember Sesame Street, and I look back on Cousin Skeeter and I'm like, this was total garbage. Compared to what it was, this is total crap. And that's the sad truth. No matter how you look at it, Cousin Skeeter was not a good show. Oh, sure, it taught you moral lessons. Yeah, so did Doug, so did Rugrats, so did Hey Arnold. It taught you how to be kind to one another. So did Sesame Street, so did Barney, so did Mr. Rogers. Hell, Captain Planet even taught you how to recycle. Give me 5 seconds. Cat Dog could have probably taught you some lessons. Angry Beavers. There's a ton of other shows on in the 90s that were teaching more valuable lessons than Cousin Skeeter. Hell, there was a show on Fox Kids at the time starring Mr. Potato Head. Literally, Mr. Potato Head. And that was more entertaining than Cousin Skeeter. That says something. I remember getting up early in the morning to watch that. Well, on a Saturday, anyway. I mean, hell, that was a good show. I mean, okay, it wasn't as bad as Pete McTee's Clubhouse. That's, oh, God, I still get creeped out at that. Ugh. No, very creepy. But still, it wasn't a bad show. No, let me rephrase that. Cousin Skeeter was a bad show. Mr. Potato Head was a good show. mean, Mr. Potato Head's show was almost like Weird Al's show. Yes, Weird Al actually had a show. It was actually pretty good. Cousin Skeeter was bad. What was the point of it? Why did he come to live with them? Who in that family was fucking Felt? There are so many questions that show left unanswered. Oh, but it's a puppet. Why a puppet? Why a puppet? Anything else would have worked for that. Why a puppet? Why? Why a puppet? That's the thing I can never understand. Is it when it was a puppet? I can understand if it be anything else. A puppet. No. Why a puppet? I don't know. But, let's get a discussion going. Did you ever see Cousin Skeeter? If you did, first off, my condolences. We'll have a meeting at some point to go over how mentally scarred we are. I usually saw how mentally scarred I am. Cousin Skeeter was weird, okay? I would rather watch Mr. Meaty 1,000 times. That thing has a kick-ass theme song. Cousin Skeeter, I can't get that damn thing out of my head. Ugh! No. Just thinking about it, makes me queasy. No. But, let's get a discussion going. What were your thoughts on Cousin Skeeter? Let me know in the comment section below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was good? Was it okay? Let's get a discussion going. And until next time, I'm Andrew Rhodes, and this has been Andrew Discusses. Bye, everybody, and have a wonderful day.